I don't like Trump, but I do have to give him credit for at least one very important thing. Longtime viewers of the channel will know that my opinion on the national debt has changed from minor annoyance to the most important economic issue of our time, no matter whether you are poor, rich, American, or foreign. You see, cutting government spending is virtually impossible for reasons that we will get into, but Trump has created a situation where he might actually be able to do it. Now, there's a big problem with it, which we will also get into, but let's get started. Late in Trump's presidential campaign, he started running on the premise of improving government efficiency or reducing the federal budget. Now, lots of Republicans have run on this premises before, but it's virtually impossible for them to be successful for a couple of different reasons. The first reason is because of special interest groups. Now, I could do a whole video on special interest groups and why they're such a problem, but the short version of it is this. In a two-party system, the parties will naturally align themselves to be about 50-50 over a couple of important issues, things like the economy, civil rights, the environment, or whatever the hot button issue is of the time, which means small, well-organized, highly motivated groups that don't necessarily have something about those important issues can have a disproportionate swing. I'm going to use this example kind of recurring through the video, but let's imagine that there's an office building that employs about 2,500 people for the Department of Education in a small town in Louisiana. Now, those people care a lot about that office building, especially if one candidate or another is talking about closing it down. And it's not just those people, but their family, possibly their extended family, and the whole town upon which this 2,500 person business is supporting the town, right? So if that small community can bring even just a 0.5% of the voter base, then someone running for an office in Louisiana can support this office and make virtually no enemies for it. Because while some people may like or not like the Department of Education or care or not care about other people's jobs, they probably don't care about it as much as the economy overall or the environment or something along those lines. So if a politician can get together 3 or 4 small special interest groups and get a total of a 2% voting advantage on his opponent, it's an easy win. Of course, both sides are doing this at the same time, which is why small interest groups have such a disproportionate effect on the way our elections run and kind of how politics work in the US. And then when someone comes along and tries to say either heavily trim or just plain get rid of the Department of Education, you run into all sorts of these little special interest groups. The place where the office is, or the business that supports this this program that the Department of Education will no longer be buying or something along those lines. And all of these things start creating impediments to you being able to pass legislation or something or a budget along those lines in order to get to be able to reduce the size of the government. But Trump has put himself in a situation unlike any other modern politician where he has a large majority of his party that will do virtually anything he asks of them, including to their own detriment, which we've seen in the past. And the rest of his party is so fearful of the impact that he can have on their political careers that they will often simply sit quietly aside while he does things, which means he has created a situation that he has now where he controls both the House, the Senate, and the presidency, where he might actually be able to push through some of these special interest groups. Similarly, he's a second-term president, which will both help and harm him. It will help him because he doesn't care about his political career after this. If he makes a bunch of enemies, which he undoubtedly will, if he cuts his target of $2 trillion out of the federal budget, it will tick off all sorts of people and special interest groups, but he doesn't care about his own political future. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think he cares about the Republican Party's future as well. Now, the hindrance is that as a second-term president, and he will largely, I suspect, leave the political, the forefront of politics upon leaving office, if by no other reason other than he's getting old. These Republicans that fear what he can do to them, he will have less and less power in the future, so they might push back. So the first reason is special interest groups. A standard politician like a Ron DeSantis would have an extremely hard time pushing through special interest groups. Trump is a different animal and could actually push through all these special interest groups. The second reason, to simply put, is just how darn complicated the US government is in all of these departments. Let's use this office building as this example, this 2,500 person office that supports the Department of Education. You can probably convince me that 80% of the Department of Education is not value added, or at least not worth the amount of money we spend on it. But I think you have a pretty hard time convincing me that everything that the Department of Education does is not worth it, right? So now we have to start looking at who they put in charge. So he's put Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy in charge. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that have grown not to like, certainly Elon Musk. Most people have no idea who Vivek Ramaswamy is, and I am sympathetic to those that don't like Musk. But you cannot convince me that he is not, at a minimum, competent at things along the lines of efficiency, running businesses, and making money decisions. Elon Musk has built some of the most successful businesses on earth, and they have largely changed the course of human history. He is competent at what he is doing, right? However, he's going to have a very small time frame to do this. At the longest, he's going to have 4 years when Trump is in office, and most likely he's going to have 2, because it is very hard to argue that the Republicans are not going to lose the House at the midterm. They've already reduced their majority in the House to one of the smallest majorities in 100 years. So it is unlikely that they will continue to control the House through the midterm. That's just like normal politics. The House typically flip-flops in a midterm election. Just look through all of political history for the last 40 years. So realistically, you're going to have 2 years. But I'm going to be honest, trying to sort through what of the federal government they need to keep and what they want to get rid of is a 20-year job, let alone a 4 or a 2-year job. So when they get to this office of 2,500 people in Louisiana for the Department of Education, they're not going to try and sort through what's the 20% we want to keep. They're just going to close it, right? And that's extremely difficult to push through any type of change, right? If you want to go in and try and pluck the good and bad and fight all the special interests at the same time, it's much easier to just bulldoze through the special interests and just close the whole thing, which is what they're going to have to do. Which brings us to the problem of this unique situation. And there's no solution to this problem. If you're going to cut government spending to the degree that Trump and Musk want to, and I'm not saying that I agree that they should, I'm saying if you're going to do it, you're undoubtedly going to figuratively throw the baby out with the bathwater, meaning you're going to get rid of lots of important things that the government does that we have built up over the last 200 years that are extremely important to our society and our economy. But they're going to get rid of them. And we're going to spend the next couple of decades rebuilding those important things as we figure out, oh, we got rid of that thing that was so important that helped our society, kind of grow and move forward. And we don't know if we're going to also build the 80% bloat that was around the important stuff. And I'm not an expert enough to tell you whether in 30 years this will have been a net positive or a net negative on our society, our economy. All I'm saying is that Trump, in this exact situation, actually has created the situation where he could do it. I'm not saying I agree that he should, or the methods that are going to go about, or any particular department that should or should not be cut. Just saying we are in a unique time period that it could be done. If you are interested more about my talk on kind of the federal budget, where I kind of started this, then I will share a video here. Stick around the channel for similar content, and I will talk to you soon.